Hey, Vern.
Hey guys, welcome back, Vern Danke. It's so nice to be able to see this channel growing. It makes me excited to know that all this effort is finally getting seen by people, and that makes it worthwhile for me. Now, today's video, fool me once. Now, a lot of people won't share their experiences where they screwed up, they made a mistake, or they just weren't aware of something and they got bit. But for me, if I'm going to teach somebody, I'm going to swallow my pride. There is no, I'm not going to share if I can give something to others that they might not have to follow the same path that I followed and get hurt or bit or have something else happen to them. All right, so where does this begin? This begins back in the US actually. Before I came to the Philippines, it was my desire to get a car. And I looked online to see what was available here. The choices that I had in my mind were to get something of an SUV that I could store stuff or move stuff to another location if I wanted to travel, something that had four-wheel drive in case I wanted to go into the mountains. So those were some of the basic requirements. And it had to be easy to maintain, good on gas, and something of very low mileage. I didn't want to work on something. And so what I chose was the Nissan X-Trail. And it took me 2 years to just go through all these things that were in my head and look at cars and finally decide, okay, this is what I want to spend. And my budget was about 8 grand. That's what I wanted to spend. And when I finally came to the Philippines, I saw the perfect car, and it was up in Manilla. So I went up to Manila, chatted this guy, said, hey, you know, I've had some really bad experiences buying cars. I'm really hoping to get a good solid deal. I'm hoping to buy a car that hasn't been wrecked, hasn't had any issues. And he's like, no, this car, it's never been damaged. It had really low miles. It had 40 or 32,000 kilometers, which I think was 23,000 miles, somewhere in there. And it sounded like a great deal, and the guy sounded like a really nice guy. He said, come on down, take a boat down here, and I'll meet you at the dock. We'll pick you up. And I thought, wow, nice guy. So I go down there, I meet the guy, go up to his condominium. He's in a really nice place in Manilla. I find out from his son-in-law that he has a couple condos, and he's also a Phil-Am in the U.S. So the guy, he's got good money. He's what did he say? His son-in-law said he's a billionaire in the Philippines. So he's basically a millionaire back in the U.S. And I had no reason to doubt that these people would be anything but genuine. That's how nice they came off to me. And so I wired the money the next day. We looked at the car. We went down to the bank, and we went to, where did we go? We went to a lawyer. And I looked at the paperwork, and the paperwork had 2 names on it. And I looked at the registration, the current registration, and it had 2 names on it. So I thought, okay, he owns the car. Everything looks good. I saw the bill from the dealership that it was paid off within 2 years, and it had all the stamps on it, all the signatures. So I know the car had been completely paid off by the guy that was selling it. So I thought, okay, we got a good deal. We got a nice car. It's clean. I'm going to bring it back home. So I brought it home. No big deal. And I was kind of slow to take this stuff into the DMV. And so finally, when I did get that process working, maybe 4 or 5 months later, they're like, well, you're missing a paper. There needs to be a payoff paper from the bank or somebody that says that all these people involved had paid it off. And so I asked for the paper, and he sent it down to me. And I get the paper, and it's got 3 names on the paper instead of the 2 that they signed off on. And the guy at one of the banks is like, well, your paperwork shows only 2 people signed off. There's still one more person that needs to sign off. And so I talked to the son-in-law, and he's like, well, we don't know where they are. And so I go there to buy a car from a guy that makes it seem like there's only 2 people on the paperwork. And I trusted him. I trusted him with my money, my time, and that's what I got. So I have a car that I can't fully put into my name. Luckily, I can register it for the tags and the insurance, and nobody seems to care at all. But I have a car that I basically have to drive the wheels off of or sell my interest to that car at a big loss to me for somebody else. So, how was I to know that that was going to be that way? I should have went to the LTO and done the deal there. And then I would have known that he didn't have the rights to sell that car off completely. But I didn't know. You come to these foreign countries and you don't know all the rules. You don't know all the things that you don't know. And that's where you get into trouble. That's where people get into trouble buying property. They don't know if a cousin could come back and say, hey, I have some rights to this. You need to buy out my half or whatever. So this is the World Series of scam abilities, if there is such a word. You have to really be on top of your game. You're better off paying a lawyer to go through these processes if you're going to do anything over $5,000 and say, hey, check this out. Is this legit? Is this going to fly? Are there some issues? Are there liabilities? What is my risk? Don't just go into buying something and expect that these people are going to be honest, because chances are this guy who I thought felt like a grandfather, he's like in his 70s. He didn't need the money. He didn't need to screw me over. He could have just said, look, I'll give you a really good deal on the car. I only own 2/3 of it. There's somebody else's name that's on it, but he didn't do that. So I look back and I think, what did he do? Did he buy a car for a relative and they only made some payments and he took the car back? They didn't tell me anything. They didn't say anything. And so, I felt really taken by that. So anyway, now I know to watch and to be better myself for the next deal. And hopefully you can get something out of that too. Luckily, I've got a good car. It's a fantastic car. They kept it really maintained. It runs probably better than any car I've ever had. And it's clean, it's in perfect shape, and it's never been damaged. But I'm forced to drive the wheels off, or like I said, sell my interest at a big loss to me. So, yeah, there's that. So hopefully that helped you guys. And if you have some horror stories you want to share, please do, because unless we swallow our pride and share some of these stories, other people, they're not going to be aware of these things, and they're going to keep repeating the same mistakes. And I'm not going to be knowledgeable for the next thing that I could encounter that I could have been knowledgeable about had I seen some videos beforehand. So, I had seen videos of people getting screwed over, but nothing on the car end to this level. So, you don't know what you don't know. And that's your weak link, okay? All right. Thanks, guys, and hopefully that helped you.
Hey, Vern.